All right, it's time for me to give back to the kids. Clap it. Hey, how you doing? My name is Hero. This is Coding with Strangers, and I want to give back to the kids. You know, the kids are our future. Treat them well and let them lead the way. Sexual Chocolate. If you don't understand that reference, it's from a movie that came out the year I was born, and it talks about how we need to give kids the opportunity to grow up and be children, but then at the same time prepare them to, lead the way. And I am not sure if we as a society have doomed them or not, but it's fair to say that we can point to a specific point in time where if we needed to change something about how kids were being reared, it wasn't about the video games that they were playing. It wasn't about how much time they were spending outside. It really comes down to, when did you introduce a smartphone to your child? And literally, I can think back to a time not too far ago, especially with millennials, where they literally will use the iPad to pacify a child. Now, I can sit here and say, what's the difference between that iPad and, say, their favorite blanket or their favorite teddy bear or even a book? And while all of them are used to achieve the same goal, the rate at which one of them can collect data, use said data to keep them addicted or keep the object in their hand, is significantly higher. And the fact that they have done tests that show that corticoid in their blood, cholesterol in their blood, which controls the corticoids, which controls the response of fight or flight, that means their aggression goes up significantly the longer they're detached from a handheld device. It should be alarming. But I don't know if what they're about to do in the UK could work here in America because of two things. One, capitalism, baby. Because for that almighty dollar, we will sell your kid and everything they're worth. And then number two, I don't know if we as a collective society can agree. Can we agree? Can we come together and just agree that, hey, look, maybe all of this technology in our kids' face isn't a great idea. Maybe things are moving too fast. And once again, we might not be able to agree on that because of capitalism. Clap it up. For that dollar, Uncle Sam will beat the brakes out of your kids. But the UK doesn't have this problem to the extent that America does. So we're going to see what they want to do. And we're going to see if it's plausible, because, the Brits were wrong more than one time, and they lost a war about it. You hear me? Clap that. The Brits found them, they fucked around and they found out. Don't come around here talking crazy. Tea and crumpets. Shut that shit up. It's a biscuit. It's a cookie now. And the tea is cold. The UK considers new smartphone ban for children. A proposed law would tighten up phone bans in schools that limit how tech companies use children's data. But experts are unconvinced that these measures would make kids safer or healthier. Okay, we got a little bit of controversy here. Written today, the UK Parliament is considering clamping down on how young people use smartphones. A bill brought forward by the Labour member of the Parliament proposed both banning phones in schools and raising the age with which children can consent to social media companies using their data. Calls for smartphones bans have been growing in the UK, driven by fear that the devices are driving a decline in kids' mental health and ability to focus. Smartphones free childhoods and prompt pressures group inspired by the Jonathan Haidt book, The Anxious Generation, calls for parents to delay getting smartphones for their children until the ages of at least 13. Florida has already passed a law that bans under 14s from holding social media accounts. In Australia is considered a similar restriction. See, and they're gonna find it hard for me to disagree with this, because I didn't get my first phone till I was 15. And I was going to say the age should be 15. But when we've been conditioned to believe that not having access to our children is dangerous, then this probably becomes something like that becomes debatable, because who am I to tell my kid, or who am I to tell a parent they can't have contact or access to their kid? But at the same token, and this is why I don't think this will work in America, even in school, no, because we've seen situations where because kids had their cell phones, we could identify perpetrators, predators, and misbehavior that we probably wouldn't have been able to gain capture. Police officers who have brutalized kids in schools, we wouldn't be able to capture this. This probably only works in the UK because they don't have such violence in their schools. Violence isn't perpetrated as much in their schools. And it's kind of sad to say, but it's because our schools in here in America are built like prisons that we do need some form of security for our kids. And just from a safety standpoint, even being able to pinpoint, like literally a kid being able to be pinpoint or lost and found, these are all devices and things that, help significantly. America is the third biggest place for child trafficking, and most kids are found because their cell phone signal was the last thing that pinged their location, right? So like this fear of their anxiety and health is one evil health versus another evil health. Do you care more about their anxiety, or do you care more about their safety from today's society? This might be strictly a unique situation for the UK Parliament to deal with, as they've managed to control one of the significant fears that we haven't controlled here in America, which is gun violence. So this is truly a unique scenario for them to experience. But academics warn smartphones and social media bans are unlikely to catch all solutions to the problem facing young people. Experts on the impact of digital technology argue that the legislation could end up shutting children out from potential benefits of smartphones. And that's more pressure should be put on social media companies to design better digital world for children. This is sort of the lane that I think I fall into the most, because if we were putting the same pressure we were putting on TikTok right now, there's no way, and I do mean no way, right? There's no way social media is as bad as it is today. If we were saying that we were going to force companies to sell themselves or find new leadership if they cannot get their shit together, social media websites would go back to being about cats and dogs and making YouTube videos in your mom's basement versus the lights and sounds. All right. The pressure doesn't really need to come onto the device or the parents or the student as much as the device, because teachers can tell you this better than anybody. You can't control kids. You can only contain them. But you can definitely control companies. You're Parliament. You can do whatever you want. You're the government. The latest proposed clampdown in the UK is thin on details, but the MP brings the bill. Josh McAllister told the radio show today that it would prevent social media companies making use of young people's data until they are 16. We can protect children from lots of addictive bad design features that come from social media. He said the bill would also make a ban on phones in schools legally binding. The bill was introduced to the House Commons on October 16th and is set to be debated on March 7th, 2025. Let's mark our calendars for that. McAllister submitted the private member bill, a way for MPs who are not members of the government to propose legislations. Private member bills rarely become law, but they can be a way to raise public influence. Government legislations and Labor Health Secretary Wes Streetings posted on X support of the bill, writing the concerns about smartphones use and the impact of mental health, and makes a really timely debate. The thing that's kind of interesting about this is I do feel there is too much onus being put. The bill being proposed to ban from schools instead of it being put on the companies. How does this work? How do you make a situation where you're banning children from accessing something? Like, if you're saying that this thing is dangerous, why are you only banning it from school? Why not ban it from the house as well? If it's so dangerous that they can't have it in one place, what makes the other places safer? Also, how do you enforce this? How do you enforce companies? How would a company enforce somebody? Do you want them to register their IDs? Because now the government's infringing on their freedoms. Furthermore, the company now has direct access to the children's IDs. So is that what we want? A database full of underage children's IDs on social networks with their security guards up? And let's not sit here and pretend for even 1 second that the social media is the reason why the kids' information is not safe. I can buy geospatial information on a 100-mile radius of anywhere within a school's radius and figure out every single kid's name and address. That's not hard. I can figure out which kid who has siblings. I can figure out what grade kids are in. We know surprisingly little about the impact of smartphone bans in school, says Sonia Livingston, a professor of London School of Economics who studies digital technology effect on young people. There's relatively few studies in the area, and those studies that have been done often point to contradictory directions. There is just about enough evidence to suggest that preventing children from accessing their phones improves concentration, says Livingston, but it is much harder to say that banning phones leads to less bullying or more play. Yeah, because people were being bullied before. People were being bullied long before before cell phones were around. So, and I'll also say this, without cell phones, the dickheads that are running the country and the world now are the people that were in school and were no wiser for it, right? The world is changing, times are changing. And I remember there were teachers that were in tears when they were told that we could use calculators for the ACT. In tears. We're ruining our kids. They'll never get better. And it's just like, that's not the case anymore. Separating out how specific issues like bullying, mental health, sleep time, exercise, and concentration are impacted by smartphones is extremely tricky, Livingston said. She points to a lack of mental health services for young people and poor pay and conditions for teachers. So yeah, this strikes at the reason of what I'm probably more interested in. We're passing the blame down. You want to get kids' mental health better? Let's start providing mental health services at schools, for all schools. Let's start let's stop cutting from their budget and start putting it into there. Yeah, you solve this problem, you might solve other problems indirectly, and also helping with the teachers' pay. The proposed new bill would raise the age which children can consent to allowing social media companies to use their data from 13 to 16. If we can, this doesn't make sense. Well, this 16 is probably okay, but in America, I think it's 15. 14 is the age. If you can create a version of those apps, the version of the smartphones effectively for U16, it will make it easier for them to clock out and go do real world activities. Yeah, but then what's going to stop you from saying, okay, teenagers, 18-year-olds? What's stopping you from saying, okay, everyone who's under the age of consent, 18 or whatever it is? This becomes a very slippery slope, and I don't like the whole slippery slope argument because it's almost non-existent. But when you do this ban, what's going to stop you from acknowledging, or what is the counterproductive point? The counterpoint you're going to lay at someone's feet when you come to them and say, okay, the 16 didn't work, let's increase the age. Right? What's going to increase the age? Rather than focus on bans, and legislators should think more about how to teach children to be healthier and have healthier relationships. The technology and the hold on of technology companies to account says Miss Pete Eccles, a professor of Bath Spa University. That's a cool last name. And author of Unlock the Real Science of Screen Time. We need to think about how we design digital technologies better and support people in understanding how it is used, how to use them. And getting there according to Eccles means moving past simplistic narratives like assuming restricting screen time. Yeah, because this sounds like the modern day satanic panic, or the rock panic, or the video game panic, or whatever insert media panic that a bunch of older people aren't happy with younger people doing. And now I do see an inherent issue with social media, but blaming the kids for being affected by the social media that we refuse to curtail in and bring in and rear in, that's on us as adults. So we are failing the kids. And the kids are being spoiled due to our inaction. There are many things we can do, but putting the clamp on kids versus putting the clamps on companies is kind of diabolical. And I do understand how the first line of defense is to go after the kid, because it's easier. It's an easier target. It's a defenseless target, which makes it easier. Every generation of power is always going to say the younger generation is a bunch of cowards. And I can't wait for my day in the sunshine when I'm sitting on my front lawn, waving my fist, saying, "Damn those kids! You guys are lazy." Like, the day's coming. I pray we all have the Bernie effect and not go into that deranged disillusion, right? If you talk to any mental health professional and researcher in the area, they will tell you there's so much, no such thing as a single root cause for things getting worse or better. Eccles says looking to smartphone restriction as a mean of response to problems facing young people might turn out to be easy answer rather than the right one. This is a great little article. I really enjoyed this article. Clap it up for that. And I think I have to agree. With them on this, because as a kid who grew up with technology, I grew up I have a unique perspective where, for my freshman and sophomore year, there was cell phones existed, but it was only for rich people, right? And then my junior year, a cell phone came out, the Nokia 365, the brick, the indestructible phone, and that was my first cell phone. And there was a part of me that felt like it was very nuanced. But like the game of choice on there that I hacked onto that phone was Snake, and it cost $32 if you used up all 100 of your text message to send a text message after each one. So like the restrictions and everything that came with it, the truly liberating version of the cell phone was the iPhone 3, and I think the people who grew up from that point on, it became 10 times harder to look at the iPhone any certain type of way. Like, technology became truly accessible at that point. But very much so, it's kind of amazing to me, actually, to see Parliament, because every time we see the UK, they're doing God's work, I think, when it comes to smacking down the laws and regulations on these big corporations, on what they can do and what they can get away with. And it seems like they're very much taking a soft approach, and even letting the public speak on the bill or give advice on the bill, and other private sectors who aren't formally known for writing bills, even letting them put their 2 cents in it, because their argument might be fairly weak, but their argument is easier. It's easier to preach their argument than it is to preach the fact. If they truly gave a care about healthcare, and their healthcare system is significantly more better designed than ours, so they have the capacity to do something exponential by getting social workers into their schools and getting them the appropriate things they need to be more useful and cognizantly aware of it. But I don't think, as this title might suggest, that smartphones are making people dumber. I think smartphones are handicapping people who don't have the effective means to step away from it. They don't have the self-control to step away from it. Because for me, I can step away from my phone whenever I want. shoot, my phone stays on silent and it stays on do not disturb. So like whenever I get a phone call, whenever I get a call, it's truly when I want to look at my phone and do what I want to do. But yeah, I think the UK Parliament's got this one wrong, but that's just my thoughts on it. What do you think? What do you think they should do? What do you think Sherlock should do? Clap it. Flat 222B. What do you think they should do? I know what you should do. You should be liking, sharing, and subscribing. See you on the other side.